Gather up, we'll get going again here.
There we go.
Get done before the sun comes up.
There we go.
Is this your anniversary? Yes. Congratulations. And yeah, the July meeting was mine. Thank you.
You need more.
We're all back. We'll call it back to order. Item 13 is evaluation contractor, which Mr. Mullally has described, policies and procedures. We had a majority of board members reply to a survey, and I'll just generalize and say you got a grade of A, Dan, out of A to F being the lowest, A being the best. So we won't disclose counts, etc., things of that nature, but that's how I equate the remarks back from board members and scores. So congratulations and vote of confidence from this board of directors to you. So,
good job, Dan.
item 14. Suspend policy to change office hours from Monday 12 to 4, shift it to Monday 1 to 5. We needed a 2/3 vote to amend that policy. It's the same net hours. Dan has another obligation that might take him up to the 1 o'clock hour, so we want to make sure that he's satisfying job hours for us and other obligations that he's taken. So that is the substance of that shift, 1 hour on Mondays. So
Do we need a motion for that?
over here.
It's a policy, so it takes a 2/3 vote.
You know, I don't see where there'd be a bit of problem. Anytime you get a hold of him, call him anyway. You know, so. It's either let him go to a meeting, he'll be there.
So the motion would entail the bottom sentence, I guess, is just what I see.
The red is the change.
That is a change.
Do we need a motion on it?
Let's do that, please.
May I make that motion?
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
I think the hours would be more beneficial for me due to my work schedule. I can at least catch it right at like 4:59, so I think it's a good idea, and I appreciate it.
That's a good ad. Anybody else? All those in favor, please say aye.
Is there a second?
There was. Yeah, Joe Vic second, sorry. Opposed,
It's
nay?
Joe Vic.
Opposed, nay? All right, motion unanimous. Carried, thank you. Then bylaws specify monthly meetings. Rather than the current schedule, we'll go January, March, May, July, August, October, December to become monthly meetings. Well, we budgeted for this, so that's we'll turn it into a January, February, every month meeting, with knowing that August is the budget hearing, which is already in the mix. Yeah.
Well, first, I'll make a motion to accept to get it started. But, you know, we're still making those meetings anyway, even if it's just part of the board or executive branch of the board.
Call you down for just a minute for discussion until I hear a second. What's your
okay.
motion?
Second.
Motion is clear that you'd like to start monthly meetings? Well,
Sure, because we're doing it anyway.
Might as well get
second by
paid
bylaw.
for
No
it.
discussion, you're back up, please. Go ahead, Ken.
You know, because the executive board, they call it an executive board meeting is every other month. A regular board meeting is every other month. Half of you are there anyway, unless it's going to get into somebody's work schedule. I see no reason why this couldn't be done. I realize it's going to double the cost, but it would sure save a lot of these meetings going to 9 or 10 o'clock tonight, or nights.
11.
Dan, and then Nathan.
I just for historical purposes, what's the story for why it's set up the way it is now?
7 months.
Yeah, 7 months.
The August meeting is for a budget hearing because it's got to be submitted to the state by end of September. So October would be too late. In September, if you had to come, I guess there's a, that's the way the schedule's always been that I recall. So I don't know why that format.
It's just been there a long
It's been that
time.
way the 4 years I know it, but I don't know exactly the premise. I just know the budget hearing is typically August, I suppose you have a way to convene a special meeting in September. If you have something you have to work out of that budget to get it submitted to the state, you still have that other month.
Okay, I was just
That
curious.
skips, right, compress and then go 2 months again, so. Now, understanding, several of us, 3 of us, 4 of us leaving the board here.
Yeah, do you want us to vote, or?
Come January, this could be reissued with all the 9 new board, or the 4 new plus the 5 remainers.
I think that's a good point. I think we should wait till January before we decide that.
Well, it'd still require a 2/3 vote.
It's a bylaw change, and the bylaw could be changed back, I guess, is kind of.
Oh,
It just looked like this would be setting the stage to be able to approve that schedule in January. The bylaw posting has to be a certain number of days out, so that's why.
It would take 2 votes anyway. Or
I don't think so.
I believe this will take 2
I don't think so.
This is a bylaw change,
It's just 2/3.
so the
So
bylaw
I-
change back would be,
another vote.
We're gonna have four new directors next meeting, so they might wanna have some input into that too.
and the request from Galen Hoekstra was more
Yeah.
often than.
Yeah, I know it.
Appreciate his
And quite honestly, I don't have a problem personally.
It is in the budget, so for what it's worth.
Yeah, I'll just mention that the bylaws, the way they're written, give you a lot of flexibility to add meetings, so that it's a little strange. They specify these meetings, but then it says you can add more meetings if you want. So it does give you some flexibility anyway, just if that matters, I'll mention that.
Chuck?
Since George has advocated this for years, if you vote in favor of it, I guess you might be seen as George's puppets again.
Oh, God.
There's a lot of
All
jackass.
9. Nathan and James.
Do we have an idea what the cost impact of this would be?
Next or
Double.
2, 3, 4,
5
5,
meetings
6,
times
7, 8, 9,
$900.
5,400.
Is that what it is?
$4,500 add to the budget for meeting attendance. Right now we're at 7, it'll be 12, if that answers that.
I'm in favor of this, not just because all the organizations we work with are in favor of this, because I don't know how many times we've sat here past 11 o'clock at night.
10:59 last time. Stayed late, it's on you.
Yeah, that's documented.
Yeah, get a little mouthy there.
But, you know, how many of these organizations that put in a full work day till 6, then they sit for 4 hours waiting to be heard?
Correct.
You know, if we can cut down.
Well, because we had a couple of items tonight that
Yeah.
were lengthy, so.
Right, like tonight, we have a full agenda. I fully expect to be here probably almost 11.
Jeanette?
I have an unbiased opinion. I think it's a great idea, knowing what we've gone through these last 4 years and how they did last. And it's on a weeknight and people go to work in the morning. Meeting every morning, I believe you get more done quicker. Yes.
Response time to agencies and those asking for funding is,
So I
it
would
says
be-
2 months apart versus 3 or maybe 4 months.
Right, so people might wait 2 months just to be heard the first time when they missed the first meeting. Then if it's a 2-vote meeting, they're literally waiting 4+ months to get any kind of answer. That's a whole quarter of a year.
That's too long.
Okay, Ernie?
Do we have to decide something tonight? And if we do they have the leeway to do something different in January?
Yeah.
Every
Apparently
meeting
we
they
can.
make it all
So
good.
we're not gonna,
Step on anybody's toes? Probably not.
I don't care, I mean, whatever you wanna do is fine.
I'll take a chance to take the vote here.
Yeah.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say nay. All right, motion's unanimous. Bylaw has been changed. Dan will get that caught up for us.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'll leave the basic text the same, except add monthly meetings to it, and then you still have the flexibility to change times and things like that. And I did confirm with this room, and they said that's no problem if we went to monthly meetings.
Okay. On occasion, except for January 8th, as the next agenda item states, the next regular meeting we're requesting to go January 7th, which is Monday night. This meeting room is not available on the 8th. In addition to that, legislative day in Pier is January 9, which Dan, I believe, and Jeanette went last year.
Yeah,
or
we did.
so, and enjoyed that trip. Others may want to go. We'd like to see Dan make it there to interact with other water development districts. So this agenda item is in front of you for those two reasons. So if there were motion to discuss that as well.
Motion to approve the January 7th date in lieu of the 8th.
Second.
Okay, motion second, discussion.
You stated, Dan, in previous email chains that we have the room for the 7th and that will not be a problem?
Correct.
Okay.
And we do not have it for the 8th, so another good reason to change it.
Fortune is in front of us. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say nay. All right, motion carried unanimously.
Second on that?
Williams.
Thank you. Okay, in lieu of the travel to Pier on the 9th for those interested, item 17, looking for, Dan has done some calculating as far as mileage, depending on if carpooling, et cetera, would take place, that would break the cost down a little bit. For those who ask for reimbursement for mileage, I think Dan's done it out of the goodness of his heart before, just driven down and back with no reimbursement for fuel, I believe. Maybe he has, maybe he hasn't. I'm not going to speak on it. Anyway, best is for board to approve an advance mileage of 42 cents a mile. Hotel estimate, 2 nights per person is $186. Per diem stay rates, $53, total $402 per person, less than carpooling. So if the board would like to set how many directors can go to this, in addition to our administration, I'm opening this up for whoever wants to do something.
So
with Dan.
in your decision, I have a place to stay for free in Pier.
Okay. And there's 186
How many
bucks in
beds?
our pocket.
Fine, I'm very over.
I meant how many people can
Just for the awareness, Jeanette, 4 of us are not eligible to go as
That's not,
funded.
I'm sorry,
All
that's
right.
not what I meant.
All
I
right.
meant how many people can take
Going out there
advantage.
ways, five of the remaining folks are gonna have opportunity to go, so. Bob, you had something about this? Bob?
Yeah, this is gonna be 2 days after we have a whole brand-new group of people. Are we gonna make any provision to allow 1 or 2 of those to mount somebody, or if we had to?
If you set a limit of attendees, or all 5, 6 lids, $2,400, minus Dan's lodging, so, minus carpooling, so, you know, maybe authorize so much to make the trip.
Dan, what time does this start on the 9th? Like how early in the morning?
I'm not sure. I think they try to get going around mid-morning by the latest.
Okay.
Yeah, it was about, was it 9:30 or 10 o'clock when we got there?
Yeah, we got there right on
Yeah,
time.
we were there, we got up early though, we left early, but.
And this is being put on by Jay Gilbertson, East Dakota Water
Okay.
Yeah.
Development District, and he just likes to get everybody there.
It's actually, I mean, I learned quite a bit by going down there, especially being fairly new. It would be good for the new directors if some of those could go too, because you do learn how other water development districts work.
I'm gonna jump out here and ask, one of our new board members-elect is out here, Linda Harris. Any interest from you or anybody you've talked with in the circles out there of the newly elected that may have interest in this?
I have not talked to anybody else about it. I wasn't aware of
Okay.
the meeting, and personally, I could see where it would be advantageous. The timing may not work for me
Okay.
to be able to go.
Okay. Bob?
Could we ask Dan to possibly make them aware? Do you have email addresses for the new people?
Well, I've been wanting to. I'm glad you're here. I've got, all I have are the people who have submitted in terms of a vacancy. I don't see the submissions to the state, so all I have is Steve Rolliver right now. And I think, and I've got an email for, is it Ron Cott?
Cool.
Cole? But I don't know if it's correct, because I put him on an email and I hadn't heard. I put him on an email mentioning this meeting, I hadn't heard from.
I can certainly provide that.
So anything you can get, I'd like to let them know, especially that the meeting for January is changed.
What are you looking for here
Maybe
then?
the 5 remaining directors interested in attending, I guess, that's what I want to ask as well. Or do you, Bob? I know Dan would be.
Yeah, I'm interested in going. I'd probably just go down for one day again,
Okay.
just drive down and back.
That's what I'm thinking. In worst case weather, I can go sleep at my sister's, so I don't have to worry about it.
Okay.
I just want to make a suggestion, maybe. Did you want to put a number on how many are going, or did you want, a thing?
I believe this to the
Because-
carryover board members are going into January, gotta get, let them lead it, so I've just thrown it out there as an
I was
option.
interested in
Okay.
going, but I don't think we should send more than 2.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
2 directors plus Dan.
Yeah.
Or anybody, who-
Well, we did budget for things like this, by the way, so.
I couldn't remember the dollar amount for budget, but I know there's something in there for some administrative travel costs, et cetera. Thomas?
Oh, I was
I
just.
thought you had your hand up.
Nope, I know I need to be a little more pronounced, so.
Okay. It goes above your head up tall, I guess. Right by your shoulder.
So it'd be up to me, Dan, and you to see.
Maybe a board member too. It's just, I mean, I've been there once. If you haven't been there, you
No,
guys
I
haven't
haven't.
been there, so.
It'd be great if me and him could go. If you don't be insulted by
No,
it.
I wouldn't be insulted at all.
Let's all go.
And then
All of you go.
Then we'd have to have a.
If I go down there, I'll just go,
Okay.
They won't ask for any
And
reimbursement.
and if it's all, let's say we're leaving and doing a single day trip, round trip with all of us, then it's only mileage and depending on the vehicle. And then
Is
we're
it-
not factoring
Right,
hotel
no, that
room.
shrinks it greatly.
Because they provide a lunch for us. Remember, nice
Yeah.
lunch they had, and
There's no registration fee, is there, Dan? I think it's just a jump in and
Correct.
yeah,
provide it for, except for
it was
travel expenses
relatively inexpensive, other than
Sure.
to get down there
and
and
your,
back.
and your time.
it's well worth it. It was the
do-
second time that I've been down
Go
there.
to West, we attend 2 water development district meetings, and get to meet, sit there and talk, and see how they run their meetings and things. Talk to.
We initiate some legislation that
The
could be coming
politicians.
forward. East River is the lead,
Yeah,
is the lead on this with Jay Gilbertson. He's the granddaddy of the whole event. But James River, I think, and East River, both, I believe, hold their meetings
they do.
during that time, which
We
is a
went to
large
both.
piece of the river.
Yeah, we went to both of their meetings.
How many directors?
The one thing, this was the
How many
second time
directors
that
they
I
have?
went
Sure.
down.
Yeah.
Excuse me,
Most of them. There's a regular meeting there for
I
that.
thought they were finished.
That's all
You're
right.
talking about us, or
That's all
that's
right.
Let's let Jeanette have it here.
I was just gonna give you a little bit of input. It's the second time that I've been down there for this thing. And if you go the first thing in the morning, you'll get to meet legislators, because they have a little table set up in between. And if you wanna really pitch our West, and what we do here, I would suggest that you go to that legislative meeting the first thing in the morning on the first day. Because that gives you a chance to pitch us, and when I say pitch, just to explain what we do, and meet more people. And every year is different, so there'll be more information then, there'll be more information the second time you go.
3 years ago, there was an SB2 that came out. They're going to try and rearrange all these water districts into drainage basins, and that just got to be convoluted and messy for trying to see who was daddy, so to speak, on who called the shots, county, township, cities, et cetera. So maybe an opportunity for legislation that comes around to have a new management structure for water development districts. I don't know.
Right.
It's why-
Do we go there with a project that,
With a what?
with a project that we're trying to move forward legislatively
Well,
in mind?
you
for
could,
Dakota?
you could,
We
couldn't you?
didn't.
If the board acted on something January 7th, you could certainly peddle it there January 9th.
Gee, I might be
Yeah.
thinking about
I
that
mean,
if I was
that's
you
as
guys.
quick as you could do something and have something.
I think those folks back there were interested in what we were doing. I mean, I had conversations with some of those directors, and they were interested in what we were doing out here.
We're a statutory body. I don't know if they'll touch the statutes that affect our being. But, you know, in the event they would, I mean, you'd have some representation.
Just something to think about on Director Divvy's point, maybe this Ellsworth fire retardant sampling or something like that.
Yeah.
Might be something to go to DENR about.
Fair point.
By the way, we budgeted $1,200 for travel for directors.
And there may be more than one occasion, then they'll need that, right?
Yep.
If they go to workshop, if
Well-
you do more workshops and things like that.
Yeah,
You can always raise it, that's just a budget.
we do have membership conferences, that's under admin for 4,000.
Budget is just.
Nathan?
I was just going to bring something up, might be of educational value if somebody is looking at trying to pitch something, I guess, to legislators for the Ellsworth issue. There is a state agency that's called the South Dakota Ellsworth Development Authority, or SEDETA, that is involved in basically buying out properties that are within the flight path for Ellsworth Air Force Base. They've bought up a bunch of properties around the base already, since the area that we're talking about is, you know, technically in the flight path of Ellsworth Air Force Base. That might be a way of the Air Force and the state combining forces to help resolve the issue potentially through that agency.
That'd be significant, I think.
Fair comment. So anybody want to throw a motion out there for how to do this? How to approve some funding or set a number or
I motion that we wait until January and see how many others are interested and then vote at that time.
That'd be the first thing on the agenda. Yes, I'd second.
second that motion? Okay. Motion is to continue this to January 7th for director activity. Any more discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay? All right, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, items from directors. Let's start with Nathan, which you may have. Item 18.
Yep, first off, I'd like to wish Ernie and his wife a happy 50th wedding anniversary yesterday.
Last night.
Yay. 50 years, that's a long time.
It was a long time. so-
Congratulations.
Beautiful.
And Ernie's got a great story that goes with that, so.
All right, I'll share it. Took my lovely wife to the Alpine Inn last night and conveniently or not, forgot my wallet.
And you believe in Dutch Street too.
The good news is I delivered there for 20 years on my UPS ride, so I knew the owner, I knew the hostess, I knew the waitress, and I knew the cook. And the mayor. So I had a backup plan. But we did scrounge up $67 and the bill was $61.14. So my wife had it.
50 years, they should have given you more for free.
Okay, let's move on.
Anything else, Nathan?
I'm not happy with how things went down during this last election. I think we had a target placed on us by the Rapid City Journal. Plan on discussing that more here in a little bit. But it's not healthy, I guess, when we have a press that's completely biased and does not tell their audience, if you will, factual information, and when they have an agenda and they're trying to influence elections, I think that's not what our founding fathers envisioned when they talked about a free press. So, like I said, we'll be talking more about that in a minute, but I'm going to miss those of you that were targeted by the Rapid City Journal unfairly and ended up on the losing end of the election. So,
Thank you. Anything else?
nope.
James?
I have nothing.
Or-
Well, I want to express my gratitude to all of you directors for giving me the opportunity to work here. I found it very enlightening, and I'm going to continue to follow a lot of the water issues because I just enjoy it. And this Ellsworth thing, I think, is going to be a big deal, and I'm very interested in that too. I wish I could have served longer. The media has their role. The voters have their role in being informed on issues, and I could say that maybe people weren't fully informed of our mission here and what we were trying to do, but it is what it is, and I thank all of you for allowing me to be a part of this. So, thank you.
Thomas?
I'd like to thank all the directors, even the ones that will be here past January. I've learned a lot this year, and I'm very thankful for that. I do enjoy the conversations that I've had with the outgoing directors, Mr. Mueller, Mr. Moss, Mr. Getty, and Jeanette. It's always been a pleasure, even though I've talked to you since 2010. For the first time when I was out here organizing for the American Cancer Society, it was nice to get to know you a little bit better. I believe we're having a productive meeting. I think maybe we should have on the agenda to give Dan a little more powerful laptop so we can run two things at once, since I saw that in there. So maybe that should be a consideration, and I've enjoyed my time tonight.
Thank you, Dan.
I don't have anything.
Ross, parting shot, thoughts?
Oh, I'll go ahead and kind of go along with Nathan there. It's pretty bad when you get the only way of communication with the community is through a one-directional paper, and it believes anything that's negative toward anybody holding a position on any council. And as far as legal assistance, just like I told the lawyer from the city and county, it's just like taking the guns away from the people. You take all their guns away, that way you can control them that way. If you take their legal assistance away and demand that they hire legal counsel, and then you complain because they have legal counsel, then that's kind of a one-way venture here. Everybody's getting beat on, but the people in authority. Even your county and your city people. Look at the way that they treated George Farabee. 90% of that was just hogwash and lies. I went to those meetings also, and I know where they were coming from, and I know where he was coming from.
So didn't you like being on the board?
Sure, I like being on this board. And, we saved the people a lot of money. And I challenge the new people on the board to do the same thing. We're not out here to fleece the taxpayers. We're out here to fleece ourselves and get the cost of this operation down to a controlled factor. Not just take money just because you can. That's not right. And it should be illegal. So basically that's where I stand. If you're going to be on the board, to be here to work for the taxpayer, the people that are paying your penance. But you're here to represent them. You're not here to represent all these other legal counsels.
All right, Jeanette?
Wow, these last 4 years have really been a ride for me. I think this is, having been on other boards, run much differently than this one. This one was a challenge, but I liked every minute of it. I liked every discussion we've had. It was exciting. This is an exciting board, at least the ones that are sitting here right now. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate the knowledge that I was able to acquire, and learning to get a little bit about each one of you. And for me, it was a great experience, and I want to thank each and every one of you for letting me sit here. The only woman. Had to throw that in.
Well, I'd like to thank your leadership, and I think because of it, we did get a lot of things done. We were probably the first and only jurisdiction to ever lower their levy from 229,000 down to 200,000. So once again, for what little amount, we have saved our portion of the taxpayers' money. And that is one of those things that gets a chance to live
10%.
into the future, no matter who gets elected to this board. I really enjoy and have, ever since volunteering for this, having the opportunity to work with each and every one of you. And hopefully things will work in your favor in the future. But thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, move on to item 19, items from admin. We were talking about a computer here shortly.
Since we're talking about end-of-year stuff, I want to say I respect all you directors on whatever side of the issue you've been on. I know it's a labor of love. I actually get paid to do this job. You guys are pretty much volunteers, so I understand that. And I know everybody has the best motives. And I look forward to, I was really excited to be able to work on some of these projects with the DNA studies. I thought they were very interesting because I'm into statistics and probability. And those things were already in place when I came on, but I look forward to maybe be more involved in recruiting more projects like that'll be beneficial to everybody. It has been stressful. Technical difficulties. I dream about this stuff like I forgot the computer or something, and then I wake up, oh no. And I appreciate the chairman and Jeanette and Ernie, who's been involved in our neighborhood on the Hawthorne Ditch, putting in his own time and equipment to help define that problem and help write the report. And Director Moss, I never have to worry about the microphone picking you up. I appreciate it. So I'll move on after all that. As you notice, there's a new system in place. I'm still trying to dial it in. Hopefully it's helping. And the test will be when I go and listen to how the recording went. The computer hard drive failed and I had to get that upgraded. That helped quite a bit. It's disappointing that PowerPoint went around. I'm not sure why. I haven't had that issue that I recalled before, but I'll start to work on that. We talked about media press release, and I think we should, with the next board, we should continue discussing how to do that best. I got a list from the airport of all the different press outfits, so I know who to send things to. We can just settle on a mechanism to generate these things. If you made more than, I want to say, $700 or $600 or more, you'll be getting a 1099. And I emailed
600 is a trigger. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, I emailed a few of you about W-9s, but we don't need to dwell on that now. I did attend, occasionally I like to attend the Pennington Conservation District meeting. They meet once a month. They're the same area as we are, so I always keep thinking there's some ways we could collaborate. For example, they had a legislative event, and maybe the next time they do that, we can think, and that was in Rapid City, maybe we could think about piggybacking on that. We'll be looking at what's required for the next board. I kind of went by, I looked at old minutes and looking at precedent, and then I looked at a bunch of laws. And some of them are slightly contradictory, but basically I think we just want to start with the current board, because if we don't, there won't be a chairman. And then one of the first things on the agenda will be to swear in the new board. The new board will come on, and then probably the next logical thing is to elect the officers. So I don't know if we want to have any discussion on that.
Well, that's just how I see it, Dan. They have to get rolling. We'll have a quorum without the four of us, but by a lot as vice chair, so it could be handled that way, that he opens the meeting. However, I'd be glad to be there, open the meeting, swearing officers or the directors in, turn over to elections. Once the chair is elected, that chair can then run the rest of that election process and the rest of the meeting. I mean, I don't need to be paid for it either. So it's one of those things that I'll offer up if it helps. So if any other directors like to be in attendance, you're welcome to be. Your term is officially over December 31, I think by statute, but you'd have a quorum of 5 if everybody made it. So I'm just throwing out the options.
See, I guess the only thing I'm not quite sure about is the exact order of the agenda and what we want on it. So I guess I'll just work with everybody like I normally do.
Well,
Because I don't want to set an agenda.
Chuck's a notary. He could notarize obligations or oaths. They're done that night. You just take that time and process through those. I would imagine most, or maybe all of the new directors would be here, but not. I should let you know, I suppose.
Well, you are chair still.
Chair the proper way.
Chair until I'm replaced, I guess, at this point, but as the vice chair, present and continuing on, it could be deferred to him as well, so I don't have a preference either way. I have a function at work that night that I can defer and wait to go to later, but I wouldn't stay the whole night, I'm just saying, nothing personal.
So what, are you suggesting Chuck as the notary to swear in?
He's offered to be here, and he could do the.
And he's our attorney.
That helps.
So that takes that click off of the procedure.
Not really.
Yeah, Dan, you might give me a call.
We voted for
where
him.
I see it.
Okay.
They're kind
Is that
of
it?
fuzzy and,
That's right.
Remember, we changed the date.
It's a Monday night, it's actually the national championship for college football that night, so don't worry.
I thought there was something there. I didn't know what.
One question.
A new hospital up on the hill.
The question I have is he our new attorney?
He's been assigned as of October, he's it.
Okay.
Yes.
So if we're done with that item, this old boat anchor's been hanging around the office, or was there something else?
Ernie, had your hand up? No?
Should I be present?
There's no need to be present, it's totally up to you. I mean, you're welcome to come as a citizen that night.
Do I come and sit here or no?
I don't believe so.
Well, until the seat's filled.
I just want to know the protocol. I don't.
Okay, the last, in 2007, the directors that didn't get reelected weren't listed as showing up. And so there were only 5 people.
As long as you have a quorum, you still function as a board. So.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I guess that's a good discussion point.
Okay.
I already tends to be 6 as chair, just start it rolling, and then once the elections are moving, then the 9 can have it.
So you'll chair the start?
I can chair to start, open the meeting.
Then buy a lot
And
of
if
stuff.
you can't make it, I can certainly do it.
Maybe see if we got a quorum, make sure everybody's here. I could be here just as a draft.
As an extra man.
In the event that I need to step in.
Extra body.
I'm okay with that too.
Okay.
He says I'm not till I'm replaced, but if he's vice chair, I wasn't here. Or you'd
Try
have a truck, he'd have to
would
do anything.
automatically step into the position.
I think you ought to let him run one meeting. No?
He's gonna run the rest of it.
He'll run it till the chair's elected, as
Yeah,
him.
because I think last time, weren't you the chair,
Yeah.
Director Durham? Okay, so it wasn't an issue.
No, Tim Rogers was was the chair. Jeanette was voted in that night.
Okay.
So Tim Rogers stepped away and Jeanette took over the meeting.
Okay, so you did do it that way then?
Tim Rogers, I think, opened the meeting.
Okay.
But we got James. So. Let's see what January 7 brings.
I have one.
Yes, Bob, I'm sorry. I forgot you.
Can we award you the boat anchor?
Well, we gotta probably destroy the hard drive.
Yeah.
Well, I thought we'd pull it out and just store it. It does have a bunch of stuff on it, and who knows, maybe that is useful stuff
Is it XP?
in the future, yeah.
Well, you
you
can
can
still
just
use
plug
the
it
hard
in
drive
and
as a storage disk, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what I did
So-
on my laptop.
Archive it.
If the laptop's hard drive is any good.
So if the laptop hard drive's good, what I would suggest, since I'm my family's computer expert, is take out the hard drive, take the laptop to Best Buy or wherever you want it recycled. Hold on to the hard drive because that has all the pertinent information. You can also buy an external system from a computer parts store where you can plug it in, and then it's like a little external box that you just plug in, and you can use it as like an external hard drive if the hard drive's still working.
It is.
Or you can blow it up. That would be the safest thing, or smash it to smithereens so that the data cannot be accessed.
Whip it like Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, I suppose I could hook, we actually have 2 USB hard drives, external hard drives, because I try to keep 2. And I take one home with me in case the place burns down. I figured, well, it doesn't do any good to have a backup in the same
It's in the
place.
same building?
Now,
However,
pull a Hillary on it.
I could just pull all the stuff off of here and throw it on there in the directory. Maybe that's the thing to do. And then take this hard drive out and either store that. Right, I wasn't intending to leave the hard drive in here, but there may be some computer nerd somewhere that school of mines that might need a data acquisition system or something, so I could maybe check into that too and see if that would be useful without the hard drive.
I move that we take it to Micro Solutions, and they'll give you the little case to put it on a drive, so that way it's just a drive that you can plug in, so we can still access the data and use it for additional storage, because it'll be what, a couple 100 gig drive, and it only costs us like $7 to $10.
Basically what Thomas is
Yeah.
suggesting doing is your motion. Pull the hard drive and store it securely, safely.
Well, I guess I don't know what exactly you're saying, but I
What
can
they'll
check
do
it out.
is, you just tell me you want the storage drive put as a USB drive.
Yep.
And they'll give you a little case, it's rubber, kind of like a phone case, with a little USB cord attached, and you can plug it into your laptop and still access all the data. Or if you need additional storage, we can put data on that, and
Okay. So there's a motion to that effect.
I guess I'll second it then.
Okay, second. More discussion?
The reason I think we ought to probably keep it would be for all the historic data that no one's going to have. I mean, unless you're willing to go through the rest of those files,
You're talking the hard drive itself.
the hard drive itself, I don't actually know what's on there. So we should probably,
There's some old bookkeeping software, and maybe I just leave the status quo, I don't know.
that way we can also use it to copy onto
Kind of.
whatever is that,
I mean,
and use it as a backup drive.
Slightly second thoughts about trashing it right now, because if there's certain files on there that can only be opened up with QuickBooks, for example, I think is on there. The file itself may not be any good to you if you just pull the hard drive.
Would you like to put some thought into that and let your new
I
executive?
guess if you want, I'll quick.
It'd be on the hard drive, Dan.
Pardon me?
QuickBooks, if it's on that computer, is on the hard drive.
Yep.
So you're good to pull a little drive.
Right, but to run
The program,
run
QuickBooks,
XP,
you don't, XP will be on the drive too.
Yeah.
Everything, the whole system is on that drive.
Yeah.
all right, well,
The rest of it's just a big screen.
And maybe at 4:59 on a Monday, I'll come in and I'll show you how it's done, because I do this all the
you
time.
can actually boot XP off
Yep.
that
Oh, yeah.
drive through the USB connection.
Yep.
Okay.
I just got a little question. When you first came aboard, was there anything that you needed to look on that from before you? Any forms, anything that you got of anything that helped you learn what was going on?
No, I just kind of looked around and saw there was some bookkeeping stuff on there and just a bunch of the old meeting minutes and things like that, but I didn't really
You
have
didn't
to go
need it?
back far enough to see anything that,
No, I was just wondering if it was helpful to have that on as a new person coming on, to have that information as a new person coming into any position.
I didn't use it.
Well,
Perhaps
then-
there was something that would have helped, but I didn't use it
So
in
in
that.
essence, the hard drive is the whole brain of the machine, and it would store in a smaller pocket if it was stored as the motion. Anything else on discussion? Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
What
please
what
say-
are we voting on?
Oh, voting on,
What's the motion?
motion is, I'm sorry.
Put it up
Motion
there.
is removing that hard drive, securely store it with a USB connection to access it later if need be. And the computer maybe donated. Use it as I don't have that in the motion.
But then you don't have to pay to have it destroyed and secured either. And for $11 or less, it's usually what it is.
So can somebody
It's
suggest-
secured the hard drive so nobody can try to use any information on it.
Okay.
Is this motion what you want?
Yeah.
James, in a second, likes it.
Can I ask a question here?
Certainly.
So, how hard would it be just to keep it in a corner with a charge on it? So if you did need it, I guess,
Start fire.
which is the intent here, right? That you're trying to keep it.
No, you can unplug it and
It's
just
not
have it like this.
Terribly, but the battery's
I
pretty
know,
much
but we're trying to
shot.
keep the information on it.
The battery's
Right.
pretty much shot, but it runs on the power supply, so it's in the file cabinet. It's not a terrible burden, but I was gonna take that old printer in to salvage that, and I thought at the same time I might haul that in if we don't need it, but
So if you pulled the hard drive on it and you wanted to boot off of that USB drive, you'd have to get into the BIOS system, right, and change the boot sequence so it would boot off that USB.
No, you can plug it straight through USB and basically read all the files that are on there.
No, but I mean, if he wanted to pull up QuickBooks and look at one of the old QuickBook files, like what he was talking about, he'd have to boot off of that drive.
No, it'll pull it up off that
Yeah, you
drive.
can-
It'll just ask
you
you
can
which
pull the
program you want
program
to open
file
it
off
with
of
and
that.
just open it right from there. It's so simple, it's crazy. Like everybody should do it.
I
Stop
just
in
want,
and-
I have a little comment, if you don't mind,
Okay.
please. I just heard Thomas volunteer to take care of that, to take care of the information on the hard drive. Didn't I, isn't that what you asked?
I could assist Dan if he had questions about how to do it and how to get it taken care of, and I would gladly enlist my support and skill set. So,
If he takes it to one of the computer places, they just charge you for the case it goes in, and they do it
Yeah.
for free too.
Well, that's okay, but because he did volunteer to do it,
But
I
you'd
just
still have
wanted
to
to
buy the
mention it. I
little,
don't
we'd
care.
have to buy
But the case, yeah, so
It's
it,
immaterial. I just wanted to know if somebody, if we had a volunteer, that's all we need, then it'll get done.
I would suggest that Dan to look into it, and I would gladly show him how to go through, operate it, and to actually find all the information in there. So and even if he got a hold of a case, as long as it's the correct case, I could put it together. I've done that.
That's
before.
why I suggest just taking to the computer place, because they'll take it out, install it, and give you the right case, and it's less than like $12.
So is this pending a
That you're gonna have to buy anyway.
Well, then-
Right, that you're gonna have to buy
pending
it
a
it's the same
successful
case.
journey? Is that what we're saying here? Is there any chance this would fail? The removal? Dan?
I guess, hearing all this, I would suggest, and it probably doesn't even take a motion, I go to Micro Solution, we just had them do a bunch of work for us, so I'm sure they'll be real nice about letting me know the best way. Make sure what we're talking about doing is gonna work. And pending the result of that, come back
Back in January?
and.
Well, you could do it just the office expense. It's less than $20.
Yeah.
I want to say they just did it for me, and it was like
Right. but-
$850 or something.
When people are talking about modifying the BIOS to boot off the USB, well,
You don't have to.
You want to withdraw the motion, or you want to vote on this? Because
vote on it.
All right,
Can we just give Dan the ability to make the call when he's there?
at his discretion.
Right.
That's what I think we should do.
I'd like to amend that to Dan to pursue.
Me and him know the computers the best. It's so easy that everybody makes it out to be this huge thing. It literally takes them like less than
You're
60
right, it does.
seconds.
I've had
yeah.
it done.
Yeah, it's really
I just
easy.
wanted
It's real
us to
simple.
move on and get a decision, that was all.
That's what I was saying.
I don't want to force Dan to do something he's not comfortable with.
Well, that's what I said.
Just
Take it to
back up.
Micro Solutions. Let them do
Okay,
it.
let's do it. What do we have going on now?
I need to make sure the motion's clear on what we're doing here, because.
Yeah, take it
The
to the
motion?
computer guys and have them yank the hard drive and put it in the little hard drive case thing. So you can take it right up there, and we'll give them the authority to do it now.
Okay, but what if they tell me that we won't be able to boot XP off of this USB hard drive on this computer?
Have you ever seen that happen? I haven't.
No,
I do it all the time.
Yeah, no, it'll work.
Yep.
Okay.
I don't know how many times I've done it. I've done it with XP. I've done it with Vista, everything. It'll work.
Yeah.
Okay, so if this motion passes and Dan doesn't do it till January 8th,
Is there a second?
there's not a date on it, there is a second. All those in favor of this motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries.
Who's the second?
We don't count your vote.
Bylaw made it, and who seconded it? Thomas?
Yep.
Mr.
Okay.
Mack.
I get my name in something.
You know, letter of appreciation, is that in our packet, Dan?
Yeah, we
Back
all
here?
did. Say too much, but I thought it was nice that USPS did send. Thank you all for supporting the project. So,
Who brought in Santa and the Christmas tree?
that's a real tree, by the way.
That's pretty nice. That was really thoughtful.
Thank you.
Okay,
So, yeah, I guess
that's
that's.
the end of that. Thank you for the letter. Okay, items from the public. Anybody have anything out there you'd like to add, that haven't talked to tonight? Okay, item 21. Nathan, you've got an item that you made us aware of the other day, so we'd like to carry this one.
Sure. I've attended some other council meetings, actually, and at the beginning of these other meetings, there is a disclosure right up front by those that sit on the council in regard to whether or not they have any conflicts that are associated with any of the agenda items. And I was thinking about that in regard to our board and thought that just to keep things on the up and up, that might not be a bad idea. To have people disclose right up front after they've had a chance to review the agenda whether or not they have any conflicts on anything on the agenda. It's basically a way for them to let people know. And so everybody knows right up front when that issue comes up, if they've got a conflict associated with that particular issue, then they shouldn't be involved. So I think it's just it's a way of it's kind of a disciplined way of forcing integrity into the system, I think.
Makes some sense, and then you don't worry about the backwater of maybe they should have, maybe they shouldn't have. It gives them full opportunity to disclose any of those items that might be muddy.
Would this be a policy change?
It could be a policy change, could just be an agenda item to state it. Policy might be the stronger way to put it in.
Policy is 2/3 vote?
You know,
It's gotta be, we can't vote on that tonight as a policy, because it's gotta be advertised 30 days out, et cetera, so on the website, not, yeah.
either as a policy or an assumption, I believe it was an assumption, that you can't have more than 3 people from the board or any board go to an off-the-wall meeting and be there to discuss problems that really don't concern the board. But I heard this so often. Take for example Wingnuts. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people that go to Wingnuts. Either all of us or 2 or 3. Just because we're there doesn't mean a doggone thing to this board. And yet I heard that come up about 3 or 4 times. Well, you can't have that many people. There's.
If you have a quorum of 5 gathering,
Then
without a
you,
public notice of a meeting, that's when you start breaking the open meeting law.
But that has to be a meeting that
Right.
would concern business that was covered in
Right.
the realm of the board, not just because you're there. It's like going to the grocery store. Well, 2 guys got to leave. 3 just walked in. That's garbage.
well, Ken,
Dan knows exactly what I'm talking about.
I just got a question because I haven't been to Wingnuts in a really long time. Does it make any difference? Do you ever say anything? Do you ever make any rulings? Do you ever do
That's
anything?
not the idea of
I mean-
what it was presented to the board by H2O.
What I'm trying to say is, to back you up on this, is that if it takes 5 for a quorum, but you can talk about what you've done in the past when you.
You're an individual in another setting.
Let's ask the attorney. We have an attorney here, let's ask him.
No, you can have more than
But-
5.
I haven't dug into it, but I believe if you have 5, which is a quorum, and they're discussing business.
Yeah.
Concerning the board.
Then you're in violation if it hasn't been noticed, etc. But if you have 5 people going to a concert, as an example, that's not a violation. Yes.
What if you just have 3 people over coffee,
No.
talking about business?
It takes 5.
You have to have 5, you have to have 5
So
there.
if it's
So it
5,
doesn't matter if you're in Windnucks or not. If you happen to say hi to somebody else on the board and you say, how was the meeting? There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, we'd hate to miss Jeanette's Christmas party.
it's
I gotta get back. I just
meeting as
too
a
much on
group,
my plate.
Right.
you're meeting as a group discussing the business
That's
of
a-
the board.
That's how I understood it.
Yeah.
Right.
But now that you
But
brought
if
it up,
you're
I want to
just
clarify.
incidentally, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I know. Thank you.
So with regard to conflict of interest, could be a policy change you folks may add to your policies next year.
I'd like to make a motion that we add as a standard agenda item after approval of agenda, a disclosure of director's conflict of interest line item.
That way we advertise it.
I'd like to second that.
Okay. Motion second. More discussion.
I'm not sure what that means yet.
Yeah, I'm not sure
I'm
that's.
not sure either.
I'm not sure that we need
A
that.
conflict
Yeah,
of
I'm not sure
interest,
either.
a conflict of interest would be, let's say Dan worked for the city still, and he came in and,
To Wingnuts?
no, he came in here and requested money for the city. Well, that would be a conflict of interest since his own job might benefit from the board's money where he sits. Or if I came in and said, hey, I'd like to get all of Sturgis Road a water line put in because I have property out there, I would disclose the fact that I own property out there as a rule. Not that it's a surprise later and everybody goes, hey, oh, by the way, he voted on this and he's going to benefit from that. You would disclose any conflicts of interest at the onset of the meeting, so that way if somebody wants to question that during the progress of the meeting, they can question you
Okay.
Uh,
if you're going to vote or not. And
I think I got it, Jim.
If you're working
Thanks.
for a private or agency or something asking for funding, you probably need to disclose that.
Yeah.
I think that's up
Okay.
to the individual. I don't think we need to have it on the agenda.
Yeah.
We should be,
Well, it forces it though, Dan, because you don't have the mystery of, it's integrity.
It's integrity.
It's honesty, et cetera, but would there be, just to force a discussion to cause it to be front of mind? That's really the benefit to saying, maybe I should back away from this one. I work for Douglas School District. 3 school board members out of 5 had spouses employed at the school district. So
Was that on your agenda?
that became a conflict of interest when the state law changed.
I could understand that, but
So-
was it on the agenda for your
It was
meeting?
not on the agenda then.
State
That's
law
okay.
changed.
That was a different day, different time, but that's an example that they shouldn't be negotiating their spouse's salary or whatever, collectively or individually, so.
I don't disagree with
Those are
that.
the kind of things that kind of forces up, so.
Yeah, I don't know.
And it's happened on the board in the past, from what I understand.
Always, but I don't know if we need it on the agenda. That's
I
my
think
point.
this is just a good business practice.
Transparency,
It's probably a good business practice.
transparency emotionally. What do you think?
So there's another question, and Jeanette was trying to make it to me while we're going on.
Well,
Would you
for-
share? Thank you.
Well, see if I can present it. Just for discussion, for thought, as I go on. I find it very difficult in my mind to think that our reputations, our knowledge of right and wrong, our morality doesn't need, there's no piece of paper, there's no law that's going to tell you, that's going to change your morality or make you a different person. If you're that type of a person, whether there's something on a piece of paper or not, you'll be that kind of person in another way. There's just not enough laws. You got to be able to be morally upstanding, especially in meetings like this. And if you're not, it'll catch up with you.
Chuck, you have an opinion on this? Anything?
I already gave what my thoughts were.
What?
I say I already said what my thoughts were on when it was and when it wasn't. You know, if you want, I could dig out the state law on conflicts of interest
Yeah.
and provide that in January.
Conflict of interest is merely a perception as well. So
Oh,
it
that's
doesn't
a
have,
point, too.
it doesn't have to be, it's a perception that,
Yeah, I thought
well,
about that.
so why create the mystery, walk out that door, why did that person vote on that item? Aren't they part of?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, you're supposed to
So-
avoid the appearance.
The appearance,
of
so this
impropriety.
clears that hurdle cleanly, and it doesn't, it actually frees you from being a possible victim of circumstance or whatever the case may be. Nathan?
I worked my way through engineering school at a bank. One of the things, well, they had a number of things that they did there, but one of the things that they did was they had a policy that nobody walked into the vault alone. Okay, wasn't that they didn't trust people, that this was to avoid the appearance of impropriety. There were always at least 2 people that went into the vault as a minimum together. So if anything happened, they could vouch for each other or whatever. It's a good business practice. It's a way to keep everything above board and force the issue, basically. So,
I'd like to encourage that we postpone this until the meeting, but that we remember and bring these items up for the new people at the next meeting.
Well, it'd still require
I agree.
Yeah, but
publicizing.
at that point, then, we'll have everybody that is going to be new to this. They'll have no history unless they've listened to some of our recordings and so forth.
we've got a motion on the floor right now,
Yeah, we
right?
do.
We do, is there
Is it-
any other discussion?
Well, I definitely do want Chuck Jasper to bring up what the state statute says. If it's already a state law, then we can just publicly mention that we're following the state law, and that's it. Anybody that violates the state law will get reported as such.
I guess we could call the vote then.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the motion to move it to the January meeting for this discussion.
Let the new guys figure it out.
Table
Yeah.
until January.
Yeah,
Just table it, yeah.
put it on the agenda, but just not vote on it tonight.
Well, we can't vote on it tonight, except for to put it on the agenda.
the phrase you need is substitute motion.
Okay, substitute motion then.
And a second
Okay.
to table.
I'll second.
Okay.
So you, let me understand this. Do you want to put it on the January agenda?
Yeah, let's move it to January.
Well, that's what we're doing right now. The vote
We
would be
are?
to put it on the agenda because we have to advertise it beforehand.
I don't think we need to advertise it.
If it's a policy change, we do.
Is it a policy change?
Right now, he's just putting it on the January agenda.
Yeah.
Policy change.
Yeah,
and
yeah, it doesn't have to be a
would
policy change.
Too late for January now because it's a 30-day posting. We're at 26 days,
That's right.
so,
And I thought we were going to get out early tonight.
Dan,
So why would we vote to do that? Any director can request something be put on the agenda for January. That's the current director. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
If it's a policy change, then any
Well-
director can put it on the agenda as a policy change,
no
but
idea
you
what
still
you're
need
saying.
30 days.
his motion was to state, put it in the agenda as a regular agenda item
Right.
after the approval of the agenda, is what I think Nathan is carving in, is what I understood.
But then Director Durkee wanted that to be voted on in January.
Yes.
So I'm saying, why vote on anything now? If Director Bialotta could just put that on a January agenda himself to make, the motion being to make this a regular agenda item.
Yeah, that would work too, I think.
And
My motion was not to discuss this, to include it. My motion was to have it as an agenda item, a regular agenda item.
And that's the one I seconded.
We do have,
That's not what you
like
said.
the Pledge of Allegiance, there's nothing in the policy that says we need to do that, but
I see what
Just-
you want.
just for
You want to have each agenda
my own
go around the
ideas,
table and
maybe
ask
that
if there's
should
any
be
conflicts.
right.
And just,
policy.
understand. Okay.
well, regardless, Nathan, you'll be able to bring it up again next time, and we won't.
No. I think there's a little bit of confusion because even I was confused. Nathan was suggesting that as a standard agenda item, that each meeting, we go, during roll call, ask if there's a conflict of interest with any agenda item on that list.
So you're not
It wouldn't be
going
a
to.
policy change, it would simply add it as a standard agenda item, just like we have adjournment as a standard.
So is the spirit of your motion, substitute motion, to do that same thing in January?
Yeah.
Make it a standard agenda item, vote it up or down in January.
Well, so we can have a discussion with the new board members.
Yeah,
And
I-
that's my
I
purpose.
think that's only fair.
yeah, I
That was the spirit of his motion, was a standard agenda item.
Yeah.
After the approval of the agenda, so that's what
So
you're.
we can bring it back
that's
up
what
for
your
discussion.
substitute is to table it until January 7th,
Yeah. Talk about it in January.
pushes it out a month. The same content or something.
I don't think there's a big rush to do it.
Well,
I guess I'm not sure what the problem would be in implementing it. It's, again, in my mind, this is just a good business practice. I
You
mean,
can
why,
always bring it up again. I mean, it's not like this is the only time you can do it. You're going to be on the board for the rest of the time.
it's
And you're
fine.
going to be working with a new board.
If you want to vote against
No.
it, that's fine.
I just thought
I'd
I'd
like to
bring
get it
that
on
up.
record that you vote against a good
Yeah.
business practice.
Well, it is a motion on there, and it's been seconded, so we should,
Substitute
I want to move it to
we
the
should
January
probably
meeting.
vote on
I'm
it.
not sure how to word this now.
Substitute motion is same intent, regular agenda item, but vote on it in January with the
New
board.
board.
It was to be 5 plus 2, 4 new.
Correct.
Motion first.
We're gonna vote on the substitute motion first.
Did it get a second?
They did get a second. So this may be a roll call, we'll see how she goes. You gonna type it first, or?
Yeah.
I'm trying to get the right wording here.
Substitute motion to defer.
I guess maybe I better get the first motion, which would be make, how do we want to word this?
A standard agenda item.
Declaration of disclosure. consent agenda item to follow approval of the agenda. Correct anything I missed? Oh.
Approval of agenda.
Pardon me?
Approval of the agenda.
Yeah, you don't need the word item after that.
Oh, that's what the director says. I should say postpone, I suppose. Am I getting this right?
Yeah.
Let's put 2019 on there, just make sure you got it.
Down by January.
Okay, that's the motion on the floor.
Raise your hand.
Raise of hands, we can do raise of hands. All those in favor of that motion in purple, please raise your hand. 4. Those against, please raise your hand.
5.
Okay, that motion fails. Let's go back to the original motion and do the same thing. All those in favor of the original motion, please raise your hand. All those opposed to the original motion. Okay, 7-2, that motion carries.
Just for the record, I'm not opposed to doing that. I voted no because I wanted to have the new board discuss that.
Yeah, it's kind of that
That's
way.
just my thinking as well.
But I just want to
Have to
go
say.
on record as that I'm not opposed to doing that necessarily.
So it was the substitute, it was 4 to 5.
Right,
Yeah.
substitute 4-5, motion carried 7-2 on the
And that's it.
original.
Okay, so
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, I have something to say.
we're not done.
Okay, but we get to take our names home, but you get to keep this.
No. That was, Dawn's.
the first motion was Jovic.
And me.
Right, Jovic Williams. Item 22. Potential action on defamation lawsuit. I know Nathan brought his name's on it. I'd like to open.
Is anybody from the Rapid City Journal here?
What's that, Peppers here?
Would you like to come up front? Sure.
I'm a reporter, I'm not
Well, I want you to be able to hear me. I want you to be able to hear me perfectly so you can report perfectly. Okay. I've already expressed my displeasure about the Rapid City Journal. I took 2 articles and went through them and made some notes. These were 2 of several. One of them was 11 October 2017. The Rapid City Journal referred to our board as ultra-conservative, quote unquote. This is a term that was designed to defame the board. It is not ultra-conservative, quote unquote, to simply ask a federal agency to fund operation and maintenance of installations they installed, and also to look for better ways of doing things. That's not, quote, ultra-conservative, unquote. That's just good business practice. The article included a quote from an individual suggesting we were trying to deny people of, quote, cold, clear water. I actually received threatening emails using that same terminology. I didn't appreciate that, didn't appreciate the quote. Inclusion of this quote is designed to defame the board, again, suggesting we are somehow trying to deny or compromise the availability of, quote, cold, clear water by looking for better ways of measuring stream flow. The article failed to even mention the significant body of data presented by one of our board members regarding how other states are performing stream monitoring without the USGS involvement for significantly lower costs. Another article I pulled up, dated 1 November 2018. This was basically a hit job targeting 3 of our board members here. It was titled, Water Board Dumps $7,500 Down Drain for Private Fight, quote unquote. It was published in your paper, sir. Yep. Just before the election. Timing was impeccable. This was published in your paper just before the election.
Of the editorial board of the paper? Editorial board of the paper wrote that?
Yes.
Okay. This title alone is designed to defame the board. The article suggests the board is funding the private legal expenses of George Farabee, who has a legitimate and strong case pending with the courts related to his wastewater disposal system, which is operating just fine. The article fails to mention the other individual who appeared before the board twice, who is similarly situated to Mr. Farabee. The article fails to mention that there may be many others that are similarly situated, i.e., we are not funding a private legal battle. Ironically, the article uses a quote, a law is a law, and suggests we all have to live by the law. However, the article fails to note that there is a state law which was written long before the Pennington County ordinance under which Mr. Farabee is being pursued, which Pennington County is not following. That state law would preclude Pennington County from taking action against Mr. Farabee and the other individual who appeared before the board twice, as well as many others probably. Why does the Rapid City Journal believe that, quote, the law is the law, unquote, when it comes to George Farabee, but not in regard to Pennington County bureaucrats? The article also fails to mention why the board had to allocate the funds to respond to this issue. Several months ago, the board requested clarification on the state law, which precludes the Pennington County ordinance being used to badger Mr. Farabee, a retired Air Force officer with a distinguished career. The State Water Board did not respond to our board, another state agency. This forced the board to have to appear before the State Water Board to simply receive an acknowledgement to the very same assertion by the Rapid City Journal that, quote, a law is a law. However, you cannot simply appear before the State Water Board. They require legal representation. Our board opted to hire an attorney familiar with the issue who happens to be Mr. Farabee's attorney, but also who happens to be a former director on this very board, which was not mentioned in the article and also makes him uniquely qualified to appear before the State Water Board. The Rapid City Journal seems quite adept at cherry-picking their facts to further their agenda. I've addressed only 2 articles of several published by the Rapid City Journal which were designed to defame the West Dakota Water Development District Board of Directors and further their own agenda. I believe there are many others in our community who have been similarly harmed by the Rapid City Journal. I would like to see us allocate funds to establish a legal fund to pursue a potential class action against the Rapid City Journal for defamation, for the manner in which they conduct their news reporting. I'm not happy, Mr. Tupper. Yeah. I'd like you guys to report fairly, to report both sides of the issue. I think that's actually what our founding fathers had in mind when they talked about a free press. They assumed that the free press was going to give people unbiased information or both sides of the equation, and we're not getting that here. Maybe you don't realize that, I don't know, but many of us do, and we don't like it. And there may very well come a tipping point where people that just say enough is enough. Please report fairly.
I'd like to extend those comments partially for when the stream gauges were an issue last year. Mr. Tupper contacted me personally, but failed to do so prior to this election. I have no missed calls, no voicemails. I screenshotted everything I had, and you did have my phone number because you reached me at least once last year. So, in hex of what he is saying, and fairness would have been another part of that. I submitted a factual letter to the editor because Mr. Anderson said I could not get a political op-ed prior to the election. So personally, I felt I was singled out, and that's a piece over and above what Nathan is talking about. But you weren't alone. There are others in this community that have to sleep well at night for what they wrote, broadcast, be it whatever media outlets they used. And some of those people were former administrators of our group, and they all took hacks at us. And congratulations on the win. Your judgment day is ahead. Thank you.
You know, the Rapid City Journal keeps the good question out. Why is our media dropping off? Why aren't people buying our newspapers? Did it ever dawn on you that this is the reason you can't get a fair news media out? It's just, it's one way, or it doesn't tell the whole story. You know, a half a story is as good as a lie, and they just don't believe that. They've lost their, I don't know what, they've just lost their honesty along the way, just because maybe it started off with political. Let's kill this guy before he can take this seat, or let's knock this guy in the head because I want this other guy to have a better chance. And it's the news media, and along with the newspaper goes the radios, the TVs, and all the rest of it. Honesty in the media is something that's lost in this country, and I hate to see it, but I guess it's just gone forever. Yeah, and everybody talks about the emails and tweets and stuff like that. That's the only honest way you can get your word out now, because somebody will go to a meeting and turn it around backwards and send it out to the public. You know, I make a lot of meetings across this state. I'm chief of staff for the VFW. I go to just about every meeting there is in this state, and I have to confirm that information onto the other posts, and that covers a lot of people. And you should be correct and honest when you make that evaluation and put out that information.
Ernie?
I think it's unfortunate that the Rapid City Journal did not do more background research before they wrote some of these articles right before the election. And it's not because it was before the election, although that was a factor. Much like these gentlemen have said, I think you need to have the entire story. We talk about conflict of interest here. I know Mr. Farabee quite well. I've known him for decades. Another gentleman that came in here with a septic tank issue is a complete stranger. He's in my district, and they're good people. And you may think that I personally have a conflict of interest, but I don't view it that way. I view them as constituents of our district that are having problems satisfying what the city, the county, and the state set for water quality standards, and the different issues such as septic tanks and drain fields have for an impact on those water issues. And it's a quite detailed problem. And yes, we know some of these people. We should know them. They're in our communities. But we're here to try to do the most good correctly within the law to help these people. We're not playing favorites here. We're working for everyone. Anybody that comes through this door with a water issue or a septic tank issue, I think it's incumbent upon us to listen to them. And I think it's incumbent upon you to have all the facts before you write articles like these. Thank you.
What else? Your comment? Bob?
First time I talked to you on the phone. And I said no comment. There's a good reason for that. Because you haven't been to any of our meetings that I was present in. And you mischaracterized the use and reason for the stream gauges at Rhodes Fork and Castle Creek. Those stream gauges had absolutely nothing to do with flood control. Yet you helped fill this room on 2 separate occasions with people that were just ready to protest the fact that we were shutting down 2 stream gauges when the stream gauges were closed for 2 different reasons. One was they wanted more than half the price for keeping those stream gauges up and monitored, and our bylaws suggest that we can't fund for more than half. And the second, of course, was because USGS couldn't answer questions from some of the other directors that would suggest why and where the data from those stream gauges were actually coming from. What were they used in? Had they used, recently we once again funded a project for the Minnelusahan and Madison formations, which are both aquifers, and if they'd have come in and said, hey, we use these to help monitor the Madison Formation, and they're critical, we probably would have worked something out. But it's sad. It's pretty sad to see that much misinformation published without, maybe you did the research, but the research was not included in the persuasive argument. And it was kind of nice to hear, or see our board back in the news day before the election, 2 days, several, let's see, the Sunday before, the Saturday before, a week in October, where they were, all the articles seemed to have been just to slam this. And I understand from elections what happens that way. I'm a volunteer. I am qualified. The qualifications for sitting on this board are simple. They are, you must be a resident in your district, and you must get 25 signatures or more, then you are qualified to sit on this board. Thank you.
Chuck?
If I may, I started to cite earlier a statute, and I said I misspoke myself. Here's the statute that I was actually wanting to refer to, and that's SDCL 46-2-14. Because it says the Water Management Board, that's the board in here that this group is asked to make a decision, a declaratory ruling. The Water Management Board may establish experimental and observation stations, including observation wells and stream gauging stations, wherever they may be beneficial. So if someone has a duty, which this board does not have any duty in any of the legislation establishing this board to establish stream gauges, they're encouraged to do things related to water, which I would admit stream gauges may be beneficial, but specifically by statute, that authority is granted to the water board. And that's never been brought up before. And I dug that out, and I said I was going to bring it up at the last meeting. I'm bringing it up now.
That's the state water board.
That's the state.
That's a state,
Yes.
but
The
that's,
state
but-
board is supposed to.
may I?
Yeah.
The stream gauges are not all owned by the state of South Dakota.
No, I realize.
The ones that we were talking about, these two that Robert was talking about, are owned by the federal government, the U.S.
Right.
Geological Survey. And those two stream gauges are very important for managing the water in this Rapid Creek drainage basin. Extremely important. And this board historically has cooperated and partnered with these other water users on Rapid Creek. I'm saying this again, I've said it 4 or 5 times now. And that was a huge mistake that we bailed on them.
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
We're a little bit off the path
Well,
here.
he brought it up.
Information, I agree.
Was he out of order? Our attorney?
Well, regarding stream gauge and defamation thing.
No, we're talking about the Rapid City Journal here. Now all of a sudden we're talking about the stream gauges.
Part of the article of the Rapid City Journal was stream gauges, so I'll allow what you did, but I think we're done with that topic.
So if we're gonna talk about stream gauges, you know where I stand on stream gauges. We should be funding
Just said
those.
so, yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
Motion we go into executive session pursuant to South Dakota Codified Law 1-25-21, paragraph 3, 1-25-2, paragraph 3, for the purposes of consulting with legal counsel
On what issue?
on the issue of allocating funds to pursue legal action against the Rapid City Journal.
I'll second it.
Motion second.
Executive session needs 2/3.
Executive session is 2/3. Any discussion on that motion?
Could you give me the wording on that again?
Motion to go into executive session pursuant
I
to,
got the first part.
okay, for the purposes of consulting with legal counsel, SEL.
Can't spell today.
SEL, just change the last 3. Okay, there you go. That was the motion I heard.
In regard to defamation. Oh, legal action, let's just say legal action against the Rapid City Journal.
You seconded that.
I did.
Okay. Discussion.
Is it only limited to the journal?
Right
For
now.
the time being, it is.
It's a defamation of character, so that could be carried on after.
Jeanette?
Oh,
Well, I don't know. I know that there's some people here that didn't retain their position on the board. But I think, and you feel like it's the Rapid City Journal ads that, or what, their articles that was responsible for that. And you're entitled to feel that way or to think that way. But to take them to court and bring up a lot of taxpayers' money again, because we'll need representation, I believe is overkill. I believe there may be other way maybe that we could maybe straighten it out better.
Nathan?
First off, this isn't a feeling. I just read through a series of things from only 2 articles, okay, that clearly demonstrate that the articles were not written factually by design. They were written by design to harm this board. It's not a feeling, okay? These are objective facts. Knowing what I know, sitting on this board, I know that they did not present both sides. They cherry-picked information, and they intentionally went out of their way to try to harm this board. Okay? In regard to legal action, sometimes that's what you have to do. Okay? When you've got a bully on the beach, sometimes you got to go pop them in the nose before you get things squared away. Okay? And that's kind of how I look at this Rapid City Journal situation. I think the only way that they're going to understand that they need to change their paradigm, that they need to change the way that they do business so that they're actually reporting fairly. Now, I know it's not just us either, so I want to open it up as a potential class action, because I know that there are several other entities out there that are not happy at all with the Rapid City Journal. They won't talk to them. And there's good reason for that. Same reasons we're looking at the Rapid City Journal right now.
And you don't think that perhaps there may be another way of...
What would that
getting
other
your
way
point
be,
across?
Jeanette?
Well, I think we should think about it for a little bit, and before we... Because this is what you're saying is like a big deal.
Yeah. What they did was a big deal.
Do you really, really want to do that? Because what if it turns out that we really... I don't know. It seems like we could end up on the... what do I want to say? On the bad end of the stick.
We've got 6 veterans in front of this room that fought for the freedoms of the First Amendment.
That's
but when
right.
the First Amendment's being abused,
But
is
I'm
there
not
a
saying...
reason, is there
wait
a reason
minute,
to just let it go?
No. You're misunderstanding me. Let me speak very clearly. Very clearly. Of course you have free speech. And of course you have some background and you have some statistics about the journal. What I'm asking you is, do you have to go this far? And I'm just asking, because I'm not saying that you don't feel the way you feel, or that you don't know what you don't know. I'm saying, and I'm just saying, is this a little bit overkill? Is there another way? Is there another thing you could do before you go this far?
You can find out when you vote. I had a hand over here. Thomas?
So a couple concerns I have. First thing, if you're mad about how the article was posted about the $7,500, with Mr. Tupper in here, I'm bet for sure there's going to be an article within the week talking about how this vote goes, or that this vote was discussed. Second item, if you personally feel like you were defamed by the Rapid City Journal outside of this board, I wish you the luck, and if you feel that's the correct course, do it, but don't do it inside the board. What was the board defamed? What was the actual board, not the individual board member? If you feel like you're defamed, go ahead, go after them. I support it. But
not as a board.
But not as a board.
This is not a fight for me. Okay?
Who did it fight for?
This is not a fight for me. The articles he's talking about took place even last year. Items that were mentioned here. It's a generality. This board votes as a majority. I represent the board as chairman, obviously, but when the majority of the board votes, that's the board. That's a 9-member board. Like it, lump it, 5-4, 9-0, whatever the pass is or the defeat is. It's the entire board that he's taken action on this, and that what he's read and what he's demonstrated tonight. Yes, I was personally in there. I made that comment. But this is the entire board that I believe Mr. Jovic is speaking about.
Exactly. I'd like to emphasize that. This is not a personal thing. The Rapid City Journal went out of their way to defame this board. Okay? And the other thing is, I would love to see Mr. Tupper put something in the newspaper, because I think what that's going to do is invite more people to our cause. There are many people out there, regular people, the people that make things happen in this country, the silent majority. He may not know many of them, but I do. The people that I know are not people that read the Rapid City Journal for a good reason. Those are the people that I'm talking about.
That's
And if he
okay.
wants to put something on the front page, again, defaming our board, I hope he does mention that we're at least discussing pursuing legal action against them and maybe possibly starting a class action lawsuit against the Rapid City Journal. I'd love to see that.
James?
So let's just be clear. A vote for is just to talk to the attorney and do discussion.
Meet with legal counsel behind closed doors. We come out of executive session if this passes, and we have to provide a motion on the floor in public. We don't take any action or votes inside executive session.
Sure.
It's basically the discussion, closed door discussion, hash it out, family, whatever, terse words, however have to be exchanged, but no action be taken in executive session. We come out in public meeting, and if there's a motion to be made, then we do it.
Yeah.
This is just to go into executive session, this motion right now.
It's
is
just to go-
two-thirds vote to go in and speak with Chuck Jasper alone.
You know, maybe this will ease your mind, but how would you feel if a paper company come out and says, well, the Durloo janitorial service destroyed a house and knocked out rugs, and you said, well, that wasn't me, that was one of my employees.
Right now,
So
what-
I shouldn't be held responsible. But you
right
are.
now, no, right now, you guys, it's not, I'm not saying, what I'm saying is you have to go this far right away.
Your
Is
vote-
there another way?
You can vote
Is there
however
another
your
way?
conscience.
I just want, yeah, I will, and I
Dan,
would
you
like
had
to,
something? Dan Malawi?
Well, I thought it was just a majority vote, that's what I was.
No, it's 2/3. I looked it up.
Do you know? Good.
I'm sorry, Ernie.
If we go into executive session, would we be able to entertain the premise of Jeanette's other alternatives? That would be part.
that's what I'm trying to
That
say.
would
another
be,
alternative.
that would
Get
be
there first.
part
There
of that
any
discussion.
and all. There's no.
But I-
So that would be
no
addressed
constraints
in
to the
executive
discussion.
session. Other ideas?
But I, right now, can't think of any, because I'm still.
Well, you'll have an opportunity if we do that. Did anyone read this article in the Journal? Just
What
out of
is it?
curiosity.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
So you know what it is.
I could take
And
it
you
in the
know
Journal
the
and try not
names
to
and
be a
there, you
rag.
recognize the names in there.
I read the article, and then I had a link to the meeting on the web version, so you could see Dan's report.
So you can see that there were actual individuals named in here
Can you-
that
We're looking
represent the board.
I did see.
Any other discussion we need pertinent to the motion?
I have one.
Bob?
What is the, can we do it in private? What's the legal executive session? Can you have,
It's gotta be. in
Yeah,
private.
it'll be in private.
9 members,
it's in private, no tape,
Mr. Jasper, recorder's off.
just, okay.
And if we want an action to come out of that executive session, we do that in public.
But that executive action then is the board speaking, as opposed to,
Right.
you
I
know,
think-
Bob Williams saying.
I think the chairman needs to, before we go into executive session, the chairman or the president or whatever has to let the public know whether there's going to be action taken after the executive session.
We won't know that.
We won't know that till we vote,
You need to tell the public.
They're welcome to stay as long as they want.
but they have to be in
Chuck.
the hall.
Nathan just asked, Whether I know, I have the statute here, it's 125-2, and it says, an executive or closed meeting shall be held only upon a majority vote of the members of such body present and voting. And discussion during the closed meeting is restricted to the purpose specified in the proposed motion. So unless your policy says otherwise, it only takes majorities.
Okay, thank you for
If
the
your
clarity.
policy says 2/3, then it takes 2/3. I don't know what the policy says.
I don't believe there's any policy.
No, I think it was the link you sent that said Robert's rules normally states 2/3. So if state law is majority, then I will back off from requesting 2/3.
Thank you, Chuck.
Call the vote.
Call the question. Those in favor of going into executive session, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
I believe it's 6-3, but we better roll call it.
Or hand.
I'll do a roll call on this one, being recorded.
Durlo,
Nay.
Bialotta,
Aye.
Mack,
Nay.
Williams,
Aye.
Getty,
Aye.
Jovic,
Aye.
Mueller,
Aye.
Bierke,
Nay.
Moss,
Aye.
6-3, motion carries.
Regular meeting closed. We'll go to executive session after a brief break.